Second.
Are you still CTN?
I am.
That's the last time we saw each other.
I was walking down that mirror. You right.
Up to no good, and you caught me. I'm like, oh, let me talk to my guy.
I think that one should be turned a little bit more to you.
Which one? This one. Okay. You right.
Yep. That was 4 years ago.
4?
4 years ago.
How do you know that?
It had to be more.
Because I knew what I was doing at the time.
Who is that egregious? He was like, I don't know.
I'm scared.
Y'all
Then
never
Tim gonna say, how do you know if I like her?
So I told him, I asked him who else he had, and he said, I don't.
Of course you
I
did.
said, I don't like either of them. He said, Gerard and you. I ran into Gerard this summer.
Go ahead, love.
He's like, I know that you do.
But it's the
I
blue
was like, how do you know
Yeah.
that? 'Cause you knows it.
All right, and we are live, unapologetic with Sir Goodwin Live. I'm here with two friends, college friends from NIU. Mr. Tim Smith, how are you? Tim Jones, what the hell am I talking about? I guess I see Tim T. Smith all the time in my timeline. And Jaquetta, we are going to talk today about the election that we're having here tomorrow in Chicago. And we are encouraging everyone to go vote and take a friend with you, and definitely take the youth with you that are eligible to vote tomorrow. It's time to make some changes here in Chicago. We have 14 mayoral, and I'm gonna have problems with that word today, so don't laugh. 14 mayoral candidates here in Chicago, and it should be interesting to see how it goes. Mr. Tim Jones, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and political background if you want to.
Oh, wow. So I lead, speak, and write in the city of Chicago on topics of leadership, civic engagement, community engagement, organizational leadership. For the past 10 or 12 years, I've been doing a lot of voter education and voter empowerment in the city of Chicago, normally around general elections, city elections, and that's pretty much it.
Jaquetta, why don't you give us your spiel?
Jaquetta Edgiston. I am an Associate Dean of Students at the University of Chicago. Kind of first got into the becoming a bit more politically astute at NIU, actually. Delta Sigma Theta sorority. We would do voters registration drives, and it is a part of our programmatic work as an organization. And so we all became deputy registrars and kind of kicked off my desire to understand the political process. And since then, honestly, this guy to my right, Tim Jones, has been a huge player for me in the political, like understanding politics in ways and helping me to stay involved. So those few things that he mentioned are just the tip of the iceberg. And I hope actually to get an opportunity to share a way that he, through his leadership at NIU, helped me to understand politics and has kind of shaped the way that I view politics in Black politics in Chicago.
We Rahm Emanuel decided not to run for re-election here in Chicago. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing or it's a bad thing. I don't know. I think it's a good thing because you get a chance to see something like this where people get an opportunity to lead. I mean, honestly, I think you should only have a couple terms in office. So he did 2 terms and he essentially resigned. A lot of people believe that the FBI has some information on him. They believe he shows up in those Ed Burke tapes, and he didn't want any part of that. I thought it was the Laquan McDonald situation and the transcripts coming out about that, but it was that on now what people are saying it was some of the Ed Burke and Danny Solis stuff. So you don't want those problems, and he doesn't need those problems. He's a wealthy man.
He, 9 million before he decided, he had raised 9 million for the election before he decided not to run.
Yeah. Yeah, and he had more than 30 million in the bank in 2015 when he ran in the runoff. So his money is just, Rom's been a money guy in the city for decades. His family.
I would say,
Jermaine Hill, we do take comments
Okay.
on the Facebook. Jermaine Hill is saying, thank you for watching. Vote Roger Washington as a write-in tomorrow. But go ahead, Ms. Eggleston.
I was gonna say, just to the point, kind of that Tim mentioned, for me, it becomes important that we not have uber career politicians.
Right.
And so for the, Rom to have had 2 terms, and to now be on the brink of us having a new elected official run the city. I just think that it's always good to continuously have new blood, new ideas, and the opportunity for other people to lead us in ways that feel more authentic. I think that after a point, you just you're not able to be a lay person and understand just general human life and perspective. But also to that piece that you all spoke about regarding finances, I'm always interested to understand why someone who has such net worth would be interested in an assignment that's pretty much a gesture of goodwill. And typically it's because of that power piece. And so I don't think that Rom needs that shine anymore in some ways. So we need fresh blood.
What are some of the issues that you, not issues, but you want the new mayor to tackle in our community?
So in 1969, the issues were education, public safety, economics, jobs.
I know.
In 1989,
Come on.
public safety, economics, education. In 2019, it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
They're the same 3 issues, particularly for Black and brown communities. And those are the issues. And the next mayor has to figure out how to decrease the violence, about 530 murders last year. They're gonna have to figure out how to get along with unions and manage unions and cut deals. That contract is up. I think they just signed a 2-year deal last year, so that's up in another 2 years. And then they're gonna have to figure out the economics for Black and brown communities in particular.
Timothy is, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce your last name. Timothy V said punch 32 for LaShawn Ford. And Antonio Reed said, I'm willing to vote for Jaquetta or Tim if they take down the damn speed camera.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something that you all see yourselves doing down the road, if you can say or not say?
What
Getting
exactly?
into politics in some realm, whether we have alderman elections this time around and mayor, what's the other one, treasurer or something like that?
Yeah, treasurer, city clerk, and that's it.
Do you all see yourselves getting into?
I would be Tim's chief of staff, without question.
I think that was a plug.
You know what? There's so much education and empowerment that needs to happen before I would ever step into this game, because I would be dependent on the regular folks, the people that pay spades on the weekend.
Come on.
The people that work for CTA, that work for the University of Chicago, people that work really hard. And oftentimes we aren't as engaged as we should be. And that has to change. And I think that's the problem right now with anybody that doesn't have the last name Daly, Preckwinkle, Lightfoot, Mendoza. You almost don't stand a chance because you can't play the money game. And so if you can't play the money game, you better be able to drum up this inspirational, you better have this je ne sais quoi about you and figure out the money side too. But you better be special and start a people movement, and ain't nobody done that across the board on those 14 people. No one has done that.
Not in a real way.
Not in a real way, and they're gonna lose. LaShawn Ford is gonna lose bad. Willie Wilson is gonna get 50,000 votes again and lose bad. Maybe not bad because it's so spread out. I apologize for saying lose bad, but yeah.
The name of the show is Unapologetic.
Oh, I should say sorry. I take my sorry.
No, that's, we want you to be unapologetic.
Okay,
that
okay,
was good. I said I didn't even really break it down, and you already hit the point. So good. Were you going to add something to the what we wanted a mayor portion?
I'm really looking for the community, like the lay person, to become more inspired, honestly. The unfortunate piece is that a lot of times it takes disaster for people to come together. Another unfortunate piece is the number of people, like the sheer volume of people who are throwing their hat into the political arena. It becomes difficult for me to like see the forest for the trees. And it becomes even more difficult for me to be willing to have a conversation with a bunch of people, because in some ways I feel like rather than having the number of candidates that we have, there should have been a person or two or 15 who were willing to concede and or come or get with someone they thought might actually be able to tip the hat and bring their political prowess to that person or those few people, so that we can become more collective in the way that we view the work of whoever gets into this office, to then be able to push forward an agenda that is a collective agenda, you know, as opposed to splitting the vote in the ways that it will be, unfortunately. Like Willie Wilson has tons of money, right? And we are under the assumption that he probably won't win, given his track record, given that, you know, there are so many people who are still confused about like his platform and what exactly he will do, what he did to acquire his wealth, and to be able to put himself behind a candidate who is a bit more likely to win, so, someone with that je ne sais quoi, so that we can have a collective voice, and again, tip the power of that office, so that we can have someone in that space who looks like us and talks like us. So
Definitely talks like us. Tell Tim he's gonna go with the hand he's been dealt, and if you need a vice mayor, Antonio Reed wants to be your vice mayor.
Vice mayor.
That is definitely something that you made up, Mr. Reed, but it works. Mark Williams wants to know if the same issues are being raised in our community since 1969, why should we have faith in any of these candidates?
That's a great question. A better question is, why don't we create a slate for our community every 4 years, every 2 years for state elections? We have to begin to get educated and mobilize and create our own slate and present our person for alderman, or our persons, present our person or persons for mayor. Otherwise, we're gonna be saying the same thing every 4 years. Man, I had to choose between the lesser of two evils. And if you ever have a chance to choose between the lesser of two evils, always choose the lesser. Don't ever choose the bad devil.
Okay.
That's just for people who love to say that during election time.
So what Ms. Carletta wants to know, what are the panel's thoughts about Willie Wilson and his ability to articulate? Do you feel that will be his downfall?
I need to jump in on this one, because I heard, and I hope that I say it properly, the like a very salient thing just 2 days ago. So was talking to a friend about all of the candidates, and they mentioned Willie Wilson, and they said, my mom is planning to vote for him, and gave a couple reasons why. And she said, the only thing that I feel that he lacks is the ability to articulate himself. And she said, and so did Moses. And that for her was like, you know, mic drop kind of moment. And I was like, yes, go you. So like to that point, I just feel like we all have challenges. We all have things that are kind of not always fine-tuned. And so I really try not to like, make things laughable if a person has like something that's not totally tuned. But again, to that point, I say, put your weight behind someone who is outward facing, who probably is a bit more, buttoned up. He doesn't need necessarily the power of the office. He has, in his own right, a ton of success. And so I would have loved to see him support back someone who was a bit more tailored, I guess.
The Antonio Reed, he is a good friend of mine and he's very comical, but we have to read his comments. He said, I need my mayor to be an attractive black female with 2 different child's fathers and 3 stretch marks. That type of woman is made to lead. Okay.
All right.
You took off it back that funny. All right. 100% is downfall. Willie Wilson is just the urban version of Trump.
You know what Willie Wilson's problem is?
What's that?
He's running the same campaign that he ran in 2015. It's not that he's not articulate. That's the problem. It's not that he's 70-some years old. I mean, older people run all the time. It's not that he doesn't have a political. He's running the exact same campaign that he ran in 2015.
I was intrigued in 2015.
That is his problem, but you lost.
Yeah.
What did you learn from your loss? Nothing, because he went right back to his group, and so I mean, Willie Wilson is Willie Wilson.
Willie Wilson is Willie Wilson. I want to get into a few of the numbers because you mentioned, people joining with others to get the best candidate,
Right.
Run the best race, and it was someone here who raised John Coleslaw. I don't know if I'm saying.
Yeah.
He raised $1,000 just to tap it over $1,000.
2 Nissan Altima car payment.
Come on.
You can go sit down somewhere.
LaShawn Ford raised $87,000, and Niels Griffin $153,000. And I want you all to give your take on Amara. She raised $654,000. She's endorsed by Chance.
Yeah.
Those are some of the ones that didn't make it to. And Bob Fioretti, he only raised $713. Those are $13,000. Those are some of the lower ones that didn't make it to $1 million. What are your thoughts on Amara? At least we'll talk about her.
Yeah.
I'll kick it off only because Tim probably has way better points than me. So it's definitely not an issue with her. Honest to goodness, I'm rooting for all black women right now, and particularly in this race. But the I guess challenge that I have is just kind of how things have transpired with her and her platform, in my opinion, not being fully vetted in some ways, and also not being fully shared as transparently as I would have hoped. I am not one to believe that all information should be presented to you without you challenging yourself to seek additional information. But my issue in this case is like my parents were like, we have to vote for the woman that Chance said that we should vote for. And I was like, why? And they were like, oh, we don't know. And I feel like if anything, in addition to Chance's endorsement, there should be 1 or 2 things that everybody is able to spout out about the plan, for the future. And in some ways, I'm a bit disappointed by those people who decided to throw weight behind her for the reasons that we've discussed. Not that she's not the best candidate and or they should not have put their weight behind her. I just feel like we do this thing where we want people to feel a certain way, and we don't necessarily do what is best for us from a collective consciousness perspective. We don't get together, create these bargaining agreements of sorts, and then push forward a candidate who is likely to win. We vote for the Bernies of the world. And I'm not opposed to Bernie at all. I believe in his platform. I absolutely love his politics. But, you know, at the time when he first ran for president, I called it like day one, like the world is just not ready for him right now. America was not ready for Bernie at that particular moment. And again, not that he shouldn't have run, but when people did that Bernie or bust and decided not to move forward, you know what I mean? Like decided to demonize his opposer. I feel like in some ways that we have the potential to be back in that space where there are people who are only willing to vote for the culture. And so they are going to throw support and weight behind a candidate, but not be mindful of the fact that we have to be smart about this. It's not a short game.
That was one of my questions that I was going to ask. So, Tim, what do you think about people voting for someone because they are, you know, they're black, they are Hispanic, or, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
I just really think it's important to be strategic in whatever you do. Amara Inya is really smart, speaks 6 languages, very articulate. She's just brilliant. But the way that was laid out, you know, Chance should take an L when she takes 7th tomorrow. She's gonna finish like in the middle of the pack, and he should take an L because he thought that his name was gonna catapult her to the top, and it didn't because they weren't strategic. And so, being black, being disabled, whatever that is, that's the story. The story got to be merged with a strategy. Put the numbers guy in there to figure out who you're gonna target. Then you pack a bigger punch. If you're talking about winning, you got to be talking about winning, not just playing the game, Willie Wilson. And again, I think the problem with her campaign, besides the strategy piece, was she tends to believe that only millennials and young people are voting in this election. The Polish people in Portage Park are voting in this election too. The white Caucasian Mike Madigan folks on the Southwest side are voting in this election too. You better figure out a narrative that speaks to their Chicago too. And I think that another mistake in her campaign.
And that can be done by bridging issues and not by completely isolating. I think that some people become afraid of isolating their core base, particularly people who are more grassroots. I think can feel like maybe if you go too far away from what has been your center, that you become unrelatable for those people who initially supported you. And I don't think that's true. I think that Tim is absolutely correct that you have to figure out a strategy and commonalities of all of those communities in order to bridge them.
Since we're on Amaya and we are Chance the Rapper, who do you all think is the best candidate for our community?
That is tricky.
Yeah, I can only speak for myself. I voted yesterday and I voted for Lori Lightfoot. Lori Lightfoot is extremely smart. She's extremely progressive. She had her hands all over the police accountability task force. She's just a reflection of what's going on across the country. Black and brown women taking charge, who can lead. She has a little bit of problems speaking to the business community, and that's a problem for her. That's just a problem for her. But she's just really smart. She knows our community. She's a lawyer from University of Chicago. She's a part of the LGBTQ community. Her wife is a white woman. So she kind of checks these boxes that, you know, from a voter standpoint, you have to check. But there's also some substance there, just in regards to our issues, police accountability, public safety, and building up the South and West Sides.
It also looks like she drinks cognac based upon her. No.
Be unapologetic. That's right.
So, the polls are leaning toward, or say that Lightfoot, Periwinkle, and Daley are top 3 runners, right?
And that's changing as this show goes.
Right,
That's
right,
changing.
In like kind of light of those three, I would definitely say Lightfoot would be most relatable in my opinion. I've been advising people all day to try to do some work, you know, to really make an informed decision. I've even asked people to wait until after this conversation so that they could hear the commentary before voting. But most people don't want to wait until tomorrow because they think the polls will be crazy. That's for our community. I think that that's tough. I think that it is a personal decision of sorts. My neighborhood club that I belong to is actually not for Lightfoot. Not a whole lot of commentary as to why not.
Who are they going with? Kirkland?
I think that they probably are going with Amara.
Oh, Mara. Okay. That makes sense.
And so, again, who is best? I kind of want to keep that close to my chest. But if we really, if just saying those three, Lightfoot would be front runner for me.
Okay, we do have some comments from Facebook. Cassandra, one of our NIU alums, says she likes Willie Wilson. Brittany Janae, I agree that we can't just vote on the culture, and unfortunately for myself and the masses, we don't see or hear anything about these people until it's time for election. We see no relevance or reasoning to seek knowledge for ourselves outside of these candidates being linked to a celebrity we feel that we can relate to.
I've actually heard of quite a few community organizations having forums.
Oh,
The difficulties-
a ton of forums.
Yeah, the difficulty is getting more candidates to those places, kind of because of that bridging that doesn't happen. So my church had a forum. I also work for the University of Chicago, which had a forum. So I do think that you might need to seek that information, but if your eyes are slightly open, it's typically available, I would think.
Okay. Lori Lightfoot, she raised $1.1 million. When I hear raising funds for a campaign, I usually think promotion, you know, and advertising. Maybe you can, where's the money? What is the money being raised for?
That's such a good question. Listen to this, man. 14 candidates, $28 million has been raised amongst the 14 candidates.
Yes.
In the automatic race, 173 candidates. $40 million has been raised amongst it. You always have to start with the money and people's ability or inability to fund and finance their campaign. And it's really hard because all the money goes to the big guy. It goes to the dailies and it goes to the Preckwinkles and the Suzanne Mendozas because that's where the relationships are. And so after you talk about the money, you got to talk about the people, the personalities that fund it. I'll ask you a question. It's your show, but I'll ask you a question. Top 2 individual donors to the automatic races. Just 2 big names in the city.
2 big names in the city towards aldermen.
Who's giving the most? Give me the top 2 in your opinion.
Governor-elect.
Go ahead.
JB is 1.
Okay.
Ron is 2.
Okay.
Collectively, they've given over $1 million to the automatic races. JB has financed $450,000 of automatic races. Every single person in the Black Caucus, except for 3 people, there's 18. So 15 of them got a big check from JB. All of them got a big check from Ron. These guys are setting up a dynasty, a political dynasty. JB is trying to overtake the Suge Knight of Illinois state politics, Mike Madigan. Right now, Mike Madigan got about $8 million in his campaign chest that he just throws out to whoever across the state. JB is trying to snatch that from him. Ron wants in on it because he got $8 million left over. He throws some to the Black Caucus. He throws some to the next race that come up so that he can have a hand in the politics that goes on. So that's JB, Rahm Emanuel, Mike Madigan, the Suge Knight of Illinois politics, and then Old Man Daly. Old Man Daly gave over $100,000 to.
Where the hell he been at?
He lays low. His son runs his law firm, and he just, you know, when you get 70 and you get a black woman, you just sit back and point.
I want you. You better come out unapologetic, Tim.
And you can just chill and just point to where you want it. So over 60% of the council has got some money from the Dalys.
Antonio Reed says, if forced to choose, Tim should be the candidate for mayor. The younger vote, the union vote, the working class version of Chicago. So Tim, I think that just by, you know,
Tim don't have enough baby mamas yet.
Antonio Reed.
That's not funny.
But it looks like you'll get the people vote well spoken, and you got Jarquetta to help you out. Runoff, Tim, Liz Jackson said she just came home from early vote. Wish I knew you guys were going live. You know, I'm new to this. I thought about it yesterday, actually, and I said I should have did this a few weeks ago. But you know, when I reached out to Jarquetta, she was being flued out all over the world. So it's kind of hard. Shout out to Jarquetta for being in. We all died. Shout out to Jarquetta for being able to make it today, because you ain't no problem for you to catch a flight. Liz Jackson said, looking good, NIU family. I will vote for anyone who abolishes the bag tax as well, from Antonio Reed.
The bag tax?
Yeah, bag tax, and we're going to get to clean sugar in a minute.
Oh yeah.
So it's Willie Wilson for the people. Y'all think he was named new mayor of Chicago? Will he make a difference? From listening to Kiki early on, the people don't think Willie Wilson is a good candidate.
On paper, that his 10-point plan is really good. It's for the black and brown community, the South and West Side. On paper, will he ever get council to pass that stuff?
Even more than that, like I've heard about like his way of doing business, and it really sounds like Chicago. So.
Well, yeah, he's been around for 7 decades.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't ask Antonio Reed's question, right? He said, should they have focused on the young vote, the union vote, or the working class vote?
All of the above. Right?
No emphasis.
I think you have to separate yourself. I'm a branding person. I'm a marketing person. I believe that you have to set yourself apart from the other candidates. And again, nobody did that. Not even the 30-somethings, the Neil Sales Griffins. Neil Sales Griffin would be the perfect mayor for Austin, Texas. The perfect mayor for San Francisco, where innovation and ideation is appreciated. Not here. He he has a nonprofit called Code Now for teaching young people how to code. That's brilliant. He make a lot of money doing that. Teaches at Northwestern, he does all types of stuff. But it's just, he didn't do a good job of telling the story. Nor did he have enough money to tell it. But yeah, I just don't understand why people our age, our peers, are running the same campaign that was ran 12 years ago or 15 years ago. They didn't learn anything from Obama. State election, U.S. Senate, well, U.S. Senate was different, or general election, they didn't learn anything from him. They still doing it the same clunky, slow way.
Even with that, like thinking about Obama's strategy, he did so much crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and like to this day, I still give, like I give to the Obama Foundation. It's pennies for me, you know, but collectively it adds up. So I give like $10 or $15 a month to the Obama Foundation. And if you have a collective that are given just a couple dollars, what might that get you? And it creates a sense of responsibility, I think, to the community, to the masses, if we are willing to do that kind of thing. If there are people who are willing to run to have as common a platform as possible so that they can reach out to the masses to start with that kind of strategy. I think Obama whoever helped him worked on his strategy was genius about it. The way that they did everything from raising money to actually targeting those different demographics. I think that, it was earth shattering in many ways, and people forgot about it. They let the earth close and they went back to politics as usual.
I want to ask a question about Obama, but that's not why we're here. Producer friend, can you look at Instagram? And if there's some comments on there, read them, because I can't pull Instagram up and I see something. There's no, okay. So there's almost guaranteed to be a runoff.
Yeah.
So we're saying Daley, who raised 8.6 million, Preckwinkle 4.5 million, and we're saying Lightfoot, the other.
As far as the way the polling is going, in my opinion, I think Daley is a lock. So he's got his #1 seed already. It's open for that second seed. But what they're talking about now is we won't even find out who those two people are till well into March because of the mail-in ballots and totaling everything up. And then don't let it be close and people don't want to concede a percentage point. We may not find out until the latter part of March. The runoff is on the 2nd. So if you're a candidate, how can you even market yourself, go out there for votes if you don't know you're that person?
They say as few as like 0.4% difference potentially between that 2 and 3.
Yeah. And then God forbid there's no polar vortex tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then people don't got to decide if they're going to go vote.
Yeah. Which is sad. Let's talk about Toni Preckwinkle. She raised $4.5 million. I love the nickname Queen Sugar. That is so funny to me. And I've met her a few times. She seems nice. She just kind of intimidating. Jaquetta, what are your thoughts on her being the leading candidate for the black person, the black people? Leading black candidate.
First of all, I think that that's relative.
Okay.
So I'll start with historic. So with regard to Toni, I used to see her as just kind of a human walking around Hyde Park. I work at the University of Chicago. I've seen her at plays on campus by herself. And it was fairly endearing for me. Even like with the sugar thing, I wasn't opposed to it. And I wasn't opposed to it for very philosophical reasons that were not the reason that it was actualized. It was definitely a money game. I wasn't opposed to it because of the potential for us to kind of second guess or second think, I guess, the way that we spend our money. And so, to see somebody buy a carton of Huggies and actually spend $25. It saddened me that we were still kind of going on this trajectory of putting anything like in our bodies or allowing our kids to consume any old thing. So I'll leave that as an aside. I don't know that I feel like she is, as you described, a forerunner for our community. I think that she is a career politician, which I'm fairly against in some ways. I think that there is power in being groomed. And I think that, I've worked in my career or my profession for 14 years, and I would hate for somebody to be like, you gotta go do something else because we need fresh blood. I think that there's power in being groomed in certain ways, but she's a part of the Chicago machine, that thing that does not work for Black and brown communities. And so with that, it becomes a bit of a deterrent for me to be willing to see her as that leading person or forerunner Even though, like I said, I'm voting for all Black women in this election, I just don't think that she is it. And I will say that I've had to have conversations about, if not daily, then, and I would choose her over Daily.
Yeah, that's why she's hoping she makes it to that runoff, because she could get that. It's funny because she is a master politician. Like, she's been in it for so long. She's really good at it. The sugar thing really hurt her, but she still bounced back and was reelected. If she loses tomorrow or April 2nd, she goes back to that county job. If Suzanne Mendoza loses, she goes back to her job. So it's really nothing lost for them. But in particular to Toni Preckwinkle, she's like nothing can stop. Like, she goes through all of this shit and she still can come out and win an election.
She's a Black woman.
But these ties to Ed Burke have pulled her down. It's funny how it hasn't pulled Bill Daley down, who Daley and the Burks are like kissing cousins. They've been together forever. It's funny how it pulls her down and it doesn't touch him. He goes unblemished. So if she can make it to the runoff, she good. So, and which will prove again that she's tough. Can't take her out.
Okay. So without giving your vote, Jarquetta, sounds like you would you going all Black.
I'm going all Black.
Oh, you gotta go Black.
You going all Black.
Without question.
You gotta go Black.
Totally.
And Tim, you went with Lightfoot.
Early this year or early last year, I said our next mayor would be Black and that it should be a woman. We need more women in leadership across the country politically. That's why it's so great what's going on nationally.
Let me tell y'all, the really disheartening piece of like this entire process, or just politics in America, is we are dwarfed by even Muslim countries in having a head of state that's a female. The United States of America. We've not had a woman be elected to the highest position, yet those super heteronormative
India,
countries,
Taiwan,
exactly,
of
have. And so, for me, no questions asked. Without progress, there's no progress.
Okay, so we've spoken on some of the top people that I want to hit all points of the people who watch. Gary Chico, Paul Vallis, he laughed. Gary Chico, Paul Vallis, Gary McCarthy. What are your thoughts on those candidates? They raised Chico raised $3 million, McCarthy $1.3 million, Paul Vallis, who now, I agree with you, he's been in Chicago politics. I think he was when we were in the CPS, he was the superintendent or something. So what are your thoughts?
He did leave. I think Paul Vallis did some fairly influential things when he was superintendent.
Unapologetic.
I think that he did some things that were a bit helpful to our communities. He did leave and got some experience in some other cities. And I don't believe that just because you leave that you can't, relate. I don't know a ton about Chico.
Chico's just a career Chicago politician. Like, he was appointed by Daley back in the day, and he's kind of like Forrest Claypool. Like, these guys just continue to just find six-figure jobs no matter who's in office because they're connected. And he's always gonna find the money, and he's always gonna get votes. He's gonna get a bunch of votes tomorrow. He's got like 6 offices across the city. What do you get? Well, you said he raised $3 or $4 million. So, but yeah, he's just a Chicago guy, a staple. I think he might be a lawyer, but he's just connected. And
McCarthy was the last person that you.
Oh, McCarthy's a plant, man. He's not even doing like a real campaign. If you go to his website right now, it'll crash.
You just going.
It's not. It's not. I can't even handle traffic right now. He's not. It's not even a serious campaign he running.
He just going off his name, huh?
Yeah.
Brittany Janaea said nothing pulls the daily down. Kiki Jones has said Tony Preckwinkle is black, that's all. Antonio Reed has said, who do the police want to be mayor? I'm curious.
Shit. Gary Chico says one of the first things he's gonna do is fire the superintendent. But what was the question?
Who do the police want to be mayor?
Oh, they probably want somebody that's pro-police, like Daley. Chico wants to add more police. None of the black candidates do. Not Amara, not Lightfoot, not LaShawn. I don't know how Wood Hills Sales Griffin stands on this. Sudan Mendoza is gonna fall in line. She wants to add more police. She's a mayor guy or gal. So they want Daley.
McCarthy wants to legalize weed. Do any of the others?
Oh, all the progressives.
All progressive.
All the progressives want casino. They want to legalize weed. They want to shrink the police. They want an elected school board. That's just a movement in the city. Mm-hmm. If you don't want that, you kind of out of touch with the black and brown folks. Mm-hmm. Here's another reason why the police want Mayor Daley. 46% of the CPD is white. You don't want Amara as your mayor if you're a white police officer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
it's one of the most segregated professions. You don't see a ton of black police officers riding with white police officers.
Mm-hmm. That's sickening, man.
Yeah, it's insane.
Ms. Carletto, what does the panel think about aldermanic power in the CPS school system and even charter schools within their wards, particularly in the areas that are considered high crime neighborhoods?
What was the first part?
Yeah.
What does the panel think about aldermanic power in the CPS school system and even charter schools within their wards, particularly in the considered high crime neighborhoods?
I don't know that I'll answer this to your liking, but what I will say is I feel like alder people are a little bit more common in their approach. Like they are truly elected by the people and for the people in a lot of ways. And so I would say that if you can get, well, in my ward is insane. We're probably in the same ward, 20th.
9, you got 9, 6 or 9 candidates.
We had 11, like an insane number, 14 at one point of candidates. And so I don't know how common or like widespread their view is shared throughout the community. But I would say that for the most part, if an alderman is elected by that local community and has real power and influence, that they would probably have, you know, the respect of the community to be well received in the local school system.
So this is gonna be our first time disagreeing.
Okay.
They have too much power. They have all the power. You can't get a permit. You can't do licensing. You can't do zoning, opening and closing the school. They have a say on all that. Aldermen have so much power. That's why you have aldermen that are running right now that are loaning themselves $40,000 to $90,000 for $100K a year job because they want that power and what comes along with it. Ed Burke, oh, Burger King, you want to come? Give me some money for the permit. Hire my law firm to do your taxes, your property taxes. The power that they consume and that they walk around with, that whether they want to or not, they push their constituents away once they get that power. That's why you have the 20th Ward, the last 3 aldermen in the 20th Ward indicted. 3 in a row. With the current one right now.
What do they look like?
They're all black people.
So do you think they just get outsmarted? They get tricked?
I think power begets power. I think that like people become bloodthirsty, which is why I feel like we need to do a bit more vetting on the onset. So like all the things that Tim mentioned, they are correct, but I think they can exist in any realm of anything business, politics, at any level if those are the people that you put into power. So I'm a bit of an optimist. I'm very much an optimist, and I really hope and wish that we are doing the right thing for our community and putting people in those positions, understanding the power that comes with it, and holding them accountable to it and to us and what we think. And so for me, it's not a matter of one person being the check and balance in a community. It's about getting the right people into those positions so that we are not, the current alderman sold my community, literally sold us. My family had to move, the railroad system took over, there's a documentary about it. They have a clip of him lying in front of the city council saying that everything went smoothly, the community is happy. What I will say is, my grandmother, that generation made the community. They moved from Mississippi, bought a home for their 13 kids, everybody under one roof.
Tell us where this is. What
Inglewood.
Is Inglewood, okay.
Yeah, Inglewood. 56 and Normal is where I'm from. And in their latter years, as they were like at the point of, transitioning in ways, they had to pick up and move. And that created this dissonance for them that, caused sickness. And within 3 years of our community, of everybody having to move, that entire generation was wiped out by us, by somebody who identified, who looked like us. But I feel like power was the issue, and no real checks and balances.
Antonio Reed, he's a funny guy. And if I don't read his comments, I'll get a phone call later. So tell Jaquetta, Tim Jaquetta doesn't mind him putting his hand behind her chair. He's going to be mayor one day. She's fine with his hand on the chair.
Me too.
They're good friends. I wouldn't vote for the person who is best qualified if I felt that they were going to lose.
Yes, right.
How do you balance that for people watching?
I agree.
I think you gotta be, I first and foremost, I think you have to be true to yourself. There's no way that I would vote for Daley because I have a value system. It's a good thing that in this year I got 13 other people to pick from. Normally it's a little bit tighter. You got John Kerry, you got George W. Bush. It's like, all right, fine. You know what I mean? I'll vote against my interests. But you gotta stick true to yourself first and foremost. So that's how I feel. But I understand that game. I just had that conversation with a colleague today where in his ward, he wasn't voting for somebody because he knew that they were going to lose. He knew they didn't stand a chance. But that's why I think it's really important to just create those slates yourself. That's what I'm for. And that's why I do the voter education empowerment, so people can find out what it takes to get in this game. I've been posting the donations, all of that stuff that you just mentioned. Somebody hit me and asked me, where do I get that information so quickly? I gave it right back. IllinoisSunshine.org. You can find out who's given to who on every level for every election. That's how you find those numbers out. But the average voter, and not even the average or the casual voter, don't understand that. You got to go out there and get the information yourself so that you can present your own slate for all these races. And for the automatic race are really important. $40 million they've all, 173 people. That's important. So
I immediately said I agree. I agree to an extent. I agree so long as those interests are not far off from what I believe in. So the reason I say I agree in not voting for a person that you don't think can win is like Amara. My heart wants to vote for her because whatever. But there's no way I'm about to throw my vote away is how I feel at this point. I'm not voting for Daley, like damn sure ain't doing that. So I guess that would be potentially me throwing my vote away if I'm not gonna vote for the person who is likely to come out on top. But for me, it's not even the lesser of two evils. It's who do I think is the best candidate who has my interests at heart, who is likely to win. I think that, politics, again, is a long game. And I do believe that we should be slating ourselves. And this is when I give a shout out to Tim. Like, one of the things that was so powerful for me and is kind of in some, shaped the way that I view political processes is running for homecoming queen at NIU. The Black community made us do runoffs, and they supported a candidate. I think that could be a prototype for the way that we do these things, the way that we do elections, the way that we select our candidates of choice. If you bring people to the table who are interested, you learn what their route is, what their expectations are. If you can come to them, and present a platform and have them push forward that platform, we are then able to back a platform and not necessarily a person in a way where we can all collectively come together and support. And I feel like that is a great kind of structure or strategy for doing this kind of thing, where we're not fracturing ourselves, an already fairly small group of people who are being divided. We're coming together around this common cause, and we're not making it about the person who's in the seat, but more about the ideas,
Right.
the platform that's present.
So without giving away your personal, I want you to predict what's going to happen in the mayor election for Chicago 2019. What's going to happen?
Goodness. So I'm willing to share. I'm going to vote for Lightfoot. No joke.
Why did you change your mind?
I didn't change my mind.
I mean, you didn't want to say it earlier.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I want people to vote from an informed place, and I think that we can skew people if they know too quickly what we are planning to do. So Tim had already let the cat out the bag, and I'm like, nah. But I guess both panelists are going in the same direction, or I will. I predict that it'll be Daley Preckwinkle runoff, and I'm voting for Lightfoot either way.
And who wins between Daley and Franklin?
Hopefully Preckwinkle.
Yeah, I think it's a money game at that point. He's gonna outspend her. Ken Griffin, the richest man in the state of Illinois, gave him $1 million 1 week and followed it up last week, the next following week, and gave him another $1 million. So that means to show you, like, whatever you need, I got you. I'm the richest man in the state. I got you. And that's what that runoff is going to be about. Is who can get the most money to buy the most ads, to buy the most stuff to pass out on 95th Street, because they're coming to 95th Street. They're going to need us to get into office. And that's
You
why.
even have to go deeper than that. You got to think about these algorithms. Like, there were so many people who were convinced that there was no way Trump could win, including myself, because everything that we do feeds the narrative that is true for us. So everything that I did said that Hillary would win, right? And so there were so many people who became like sedated. They believed that there was no way this idiot of a person could get into office, and so it didn't matter if he went to the poll. It's going to be the same thing, where everything that they fuel will help to push these algorithms to us that reinforce these behaviors. And so as they spend money, it will sedate those who they don't want to vote,
Or it drowns them
and
out.
incentivize those
That's
people
what the
they
money
want
does.
to vote.
So Tim, you have the same path as Jaquetta as far as predicting what's going to happen in this election?
Oh, I think Daley's the #1 seed for the money play. His last name, the Irish community, the business community, Cranes has endorsed him. The Tribune endorsed him. The Chicago Crusader endorsed him. It's a black newspaper. It's one of our only black newspaper, and they endorsed him. I saw that today, and it blew my mind. We have over 50% of the candidates are black or brown, and the Crusader endorsed Bill Daley. crazy to me. But that brings me to my point about the lack of a black and brown coalition. You haven't even heard that talk.
Is it possible for the next election, is it possible to make that happen? You know,
Yes, but you have to meet every Friday morning at 7 a.m. at Starbucks
come on.
until 2023.
Not happening.
It's not happening. People don't have the time. People don't have the energy.
You
But
don't have the stamina.
and as soon as 2023 comes, they're gonna say, "Why we got Ron Jr. running for? I don't want another
They
Emmanuel."
be in that line, and I'm not, this is not a dig at blacks, but they be in that line for those Jordans. You know, if a new
That's
pair
where
of
we need
Jordans,
to go.
if the Jordan,
Let's go to
yeah,
the Jordan line. Let's
if the
start
Jordans
watching
came
it.
out every week, they should be in the damn line.
Very true.
And it's not all black people. Don't curse me
It's
out.
the stamina
It's-
piece
yeah.
though. Like
Yeah.
we can get excited for a moment and then we like burn out. And then it's like something bright and shiny over there. And so we forget this thing that we should be focused on. But also, in my opinion, it is not just that. It is helping people to understand the need and figuring out some of these issues that are present, relevant, and timely in the city so that we can start to reinforce these conversations on a smaller scale. Because coming together to talk about politics, how long do I want to do that? You know what I mean? But if I want to talk about some hair or smoking some weed potentially or drinking some cognac, then I might be, incited to pay attention a bit more.
And that's why politics isn't the starting point. And that's why I knew Donald Trump was going to win. I was in Toronto for All-Star Weekend, whatever that February was, February 17th. I said if he wins the primary, he's going to win the general because he has this tribe of people that he's infuriated. And it didn't have anything to do about politics. It had to do with they're going to take your jobs. And after they take your jobs, they're going to do this to you. Don't let them do that. Let's make America. It didn't have nothing to do with abortion, tax cuts. And so the starting point is a human connection, particularly with a human that shared the same values with you. And he knew those people shared the same values. He was brilliant. He is a brilliant marketer and brander. He's an awful person, but he understood how to tap into the soul of those people, and it had nothing to do with politics. Part of that je ne sais quoi and that charisma that's needed. And he had the money on top of that.
It's okay. We wrap it up. So what do you, any thoughts on, what's the other one? Treasurer, alderman is on you individually where you live. What's this treasurer?
Can I say something last thing about the aldermanic races? If you have a long-standing alderman, vote against them. 85% of aldermen that ran in 2015 were re-elected. So that means the status quo continues. The corruption continues. The patronage continues. Me setting up my boys continues. If you have an alderman, even if he's doing a good job, which I almost doubt, vote against him. But I say that because to avoid corruption, the patronage, and all of that stuff. The second thing is, that's who JB and Ron are financing. All the incumbents. The incumbents on average raise $6 to every $1 that a challenger raises. So the challenger doesn't stand a chance in hell financially, but the people got to give him a shot and just say, you know what, I'm not going with X, Y, and Z. So the automatic races are really important. I went with Will Calloway in the 5th Ward. Will was one of the main guys, a part of the Laquan McDonald tape being released. He's running against Leslie Harrison, who votes with the mayor 100% of the time. There are 8 of 18 aldermen that vote with the mayor 100% of the time. I guarantee they don't agree with their wife or husband 100% of the time, but they agree with the mayor 100% of the time. It's just crazy how we've been sold out. And I hate to use that word, but that's what's happening. That's aldermanic.
And we hear it though. Like you I guess before we started, you mentioned the talk that I had a couple months ago, we were graced by a sitting judge, who told us a story about getting a call from Mike Madigan's people and being threatened, you know? And at some point, you have to make a decision. Am I choosing the people or am I choosing my family? And that's what Tim is saying is like at stake a lot of times for people. So if we are not getting these people out of these spaces, we're not able to get people who are not in the pocket of, or being put in their pocket of these people who have been running this state for ever.
Decades. 34 years Mike Madigan has been a politician.
He ain't no killer, but don't push him.
What's the other one? Treasurer? What's the other?
Treasurer and city clerk. City clerk is a wrap. Oh, it's done.
Okay. Treasurer, nobody. We want the people to.
Well, treasurer, there's a sister running. Melissa Conyers Irvin. I don't deal with husband and wife co-pastors for churches. I'm against that. I'm against the husband because there's no checks and balances.
Okay.
Like, who's checking who if you decide to just tuck some money away? Your wife ain't gonna tell on you. And I'm against nepotism and cronyism in politics. Her husband is a long-standing alderman, a fairly good guy, votes with the mayor 85% of the time. That you shouldn't hold that against people, but that's my data point. My other data point is Amaya Pawar, an Indian American, who said when he ran for alderman that he was only going to do 2 terms. He did 2 terms and he sat his ass down. He tried to run for governor until JB came and belly flopped everybody. And then he set his sights on city treasurer. Literally. And so that's who I went with, because the man said that I'm only doing 2 terms. I don't think I should be a lifelong. And he was doing a good job in the ward that he was in. You Chicago guy, just a fair guy, progressive guy. So that's who I went with. I believe Melissa's a good sister. Guess what? If she loses tomorrow, she get to go back and be a state rep. She's not losing anything.
I don't know why I never looked that up. If they were able to keep their current positions like a perfect week, I think that if you running for, you should be putting the time into your candidate. You're not doing your job.
You should be all in. Yeah. On Shark Tank, if they find out that you're not contributing to, they don't mess with you. How much money have you put into your own toy? If you say 0, I'm good.
So you all, Stephanie is asking, what do you do if you don't know the candidates? And they both pretty said just go with, stay true to yourself. Whether it be, if you want to vote black, vote black. If you do the research and you want to vote money, vote money. So that's both what they were saying. Also, there's some publications and some people that have done the work that might align with you a little bit. The Chicago Reporter, the Chicago Defender, where you can just basically grab it and take it into the polls with you. If you don't know, you might as well rely on somebody who did the work, as opposed to, I voted for people with it that looked like they had a black last name.
That's what I was walking around the office today doing. Like, have you voted? And if not, pulling people in so that we can have a conversation. And they were talking about that.
It's
I was
real.
just going to look for the black people. And I'm like, not everybody is Jarquetta Edgerton. There are Tim Joneses.
Right, and you don't know what I am.
You can't know, right? It's racially ambiguous.
Anthony Goodwin, you don't know.
No clue.
I would say DM Tim if you don't know.
Hey.
Where can we find you, Tim, on your social media outlets, all that stuff? How can we find Tim Jones? You got a lot of fans tonight.
Oh, hey everybody! I don't want any fans. I'm on Facebook, Tim Jones. You should be able to find me based upon the association. I'm on Instagram. I am Tim Jones LLC. I do motivational speaking and
Book Tim.
All of that stuff. So I have a business. I am Tim Jones LLC on Twitter and Instagram. And then of course LinkedIn, Timothy Jones.
Okay.
Timothy L. Jones.
with those drugs.
Ms. Jarquetta, where can we find you?
I don't know why anybody would want to find me,
Oh, I
but
do.
Jarquetta.
Travel blog, definitely.
Jarquetta that's it. My name is so unique that
Can you
I'm
spell your
just
name for our
Jarquetta.
viewers?
It's phonetically sound. Jarquetta.
For
Jarquetta.
all Mexico pictures at JARQUETTA.
Antonio Reed says things we learned today. Daily is going to win. Candidates are going to be on 95th. And Jarquetta prefers cognac.
I don't actually. I'm a whiskey girl. I feel like the black community prefers cognac.
Right, she made
I'm a
like
whiskey.
reference to
I'm a
it.
whiskey girl.
Pretty tough. So, all right. Thank you all for coming on such short notice and being here. Your expertise and information was on point, and hopefully we can do this again. And if you don't vote, go vote. Please go vote. Whether you think somebody's going to win or not, your vote counts.
Don't we have you can register on site. Register and vote.
Okay.
At this point, it's gonna be a pain in the ass tomorrow to do that, but
Hey, don't
get it. Go
Do it.
if they ain't did it yet, they need to.
Just do it.
Register on site if you haven't already and vote.
And we're unapologetic. You can follow us on Facebook, IG, unapologetic, Twitter, YouTube, Snapchat. We have other shows on Wednesday nights 2.0 with Deshaun and TJ give you current events. And I don't know what's going on. Fab 5 Fridays with the Fab 5. We talk about everything. I don't even know what we're talking about this week. Antonio Reed says great job. Stephanie says great job, guys. Very informative, Tim and Jarquetta. And that is a wrap. Thank you very much. What did you say?
Polls open at 6 and they close at 7.
Okay, polls open at 6, they close at 7. Go vote. Get out there and vote. Take your neighbor. Go take an old person. Definitely go grab one of these kids off the street. Go
Old
in there.
people probably voted already.
Hey, well, that's true. They taking up those parking spots in the bus stop. But thank you all.
appreciate it. Thank you, Goodwin.
Thanks a lot.
Sir Goodwin.
I know.